There are good scholars, and we ran into this at last year's ETS meeting. We went to we went to a session on Messianic Judaism. It was actually a book review. There was a panel of distinguished Messianics who had written this book, and some decent guys. You know, Dr. Rudolph, who we're going to talk about a little bit later. He's just a sweetheart of a man. He's so nice. And he to me it seems as though he really, really, truly loves the Lord. Mark Kinzer was on the board, and some other people, and there were some Christian gentlemen up on the board as well that were kind of, what would you say, Rob, disputing the book. Anyway, one of the Christian guys said, "Oh yeah, well, you know, Jesus did away with the kosher laws," and my dad and I at the same time yelled from the back of the room, "Where did he do that?" And the guy said, "Well, Mark 7, of course." You know, this guy's a scholar. It's not like he's, you know, he knows Greek. And afterwards, my dad went up and he said, "Do you really think the Greek says this?" And the guy said, "Yeah, he does." Okay, so explain to us this. There's this phrase at the end of verse 19. There's this phrase that says in the newer translations, for instance, the NASB, also the ESV, and the Net Bible. Unfortunately, Dr. Wallace translated it the same, which is, "Thus Jesus declared all foods clean." Now, in the KJV, we don't have this phrase. It says, "Thus purging all foods." Now, if we take the "thus purging all foods," it fits perfectly in with the discussion that's going on, because it's not talking about food. It's talking about clean and unclean, ritually clean and unclean, hands touching food and making that food ritually unclean.
This is what I think. Well, your dad makes this point. Tim Hague. There's an article people can download for free from Torah Resource under articles. It's called Mark 7:19. It's short technical note. It's really short.
Super heady though, isn't it?
Yeah, it gets into the Greek, and so if someone wants detailed, analysis of the passage, I would send them there. But basically, the King James renders it wonderfully. It's only in later translations that they start to. Now, I haven't looked at the English translation history of that verse, but start to say that Yeshua is declaring all foods clean. And it might be, it wouldn't be surprising. This is a guess. I should preface, this is a guess, that, in the 1800s you had the rise of, the Seventh-day Adventist movement and groups that started in America keeping the dietary laws and even going eventually to vegetarianism.
Yes, vegetarianism. Go vegetarians.
It wouldn't be surprising if some of the English translations were polemical to make that, to try to legislate that for English-speaking Christians.
Okay, but we can hypothesize at why translators translated the way they did. But let's actually talk about what it actually says. Why would they even put in there? Why would some translations even say one thing differently than the other? It doesn't even sound like the same phrase. Thus purging all foods, and thus Jesus declared all foods clean.
Yeah, they supply a lot of information.
Like what?
It doesn't say Jesus.
So yeah, but it's going back to a personal pronoun, right?
Yeah, but they don't know. That's the problem. It's like, what is it? Is it talking about the process of digestion? Well, that's how the King James takes it. That what is happening is that it's the digestive process that is purging the food.
So what words are actually there, though? I guess that's the question that I'm asking.
The key word there is this word koinos. And it's the word used at the beginning of Mark 7, where it says they eat. They're saying, why do they eat with koinos hands? Hands that are koinos. And then Mark says, which means unwashed. So this key word is koinos. And this is a Pharisaic innovation. This is not a word used in the Greek Torah at all to have to do anything with food. Koinos means public or common. And what the Pharisees were doing, as we see at the beginning of Mark 7, is that they were trying to protect a space that was had some sort of purity associated with it. We're not talking about Levitical purity laws now. We're talking about Pharisaic stringencies on keeping homes clean from the infiltration of this Gentile chaos that's outside of them. So you have foreign occupation in Israelite land, and the koinos referred to everything that was going out there on in the world, and they wanted people to cleanse themselves of that ritually, symbolically, through the washing of hands, so that they come and eat, and they did it with vessels and tables and everything. Had to be go through some sort of Pharisaic ritual that they developed of washing, so as to remove this concept of koinos, which again is not a Torah concept. It's not a Torah concept. It's not unclean like we think of unclean animals. It's a new concept, and that's what the problem is. People who are reading this, Christians today, he says, what defiles a man? He's thinking in terms of Leviticus 11 and Leviticus 14, or Deuteronomy 14. He's thinking unclean foods like pig or camel or spiders. And that's because there's a category shift. He's not recognizing that what Mark 7's talking about is the traditions of the elders.
See, but what I'm saying is that in 7:19, okay, and you're right, because he actually clarifies that earlier in the chapter. He says the traditions of the fathers.
Yeah.
But in 7:19, I'm looking in the Greek. First of all, we have zero mention of the name Yeshua or Jesus. There's no Jesus in the entire verse. There's no Jesus in the verse prior to that either. There's no Jesus in 18 either.
Literally, the end of 19 says, purging all the food.
I see it as into the latrine or the toilet, purges all the food.
Yeah, it's just purging. The very end there is purging or cleansing all the food. Now, this word cleansing, to make clean. Here's another point.
That's where they're getting declared,
that
right?
Word, from katharizo. Katharizo is not something that an inherently unclean animal could ever be. So you can't take a pig and declare it clean. That could never happen. You can only things that could be cleansed are things that have the capacity to be clean, like a human being, right? Could be acquire tameh through different things, maybe touching a leper or touching a corpse. So these are different levels of tameh, of uncleanliness, that through Levitical procedure can then become katharizo. They can become cleansed from that temporary defilement. But you can't take something that is inherently tameh, like swine or a camel or a bat, and cleanse it. There's no language for that. But yet it's just a misunderstanding of what words mean, and it's also, sadly, it shows us where our Christian brothers and sisters have been satisfied with surface readings